Now then, for years, the churches around the UK have come to terms, or had to come to terms, with declining congregations. And it begs the question for many parishes of where the next congregational souls are to be found. What is it about the church which puts young people off going? Do the youth of today have any spiritual values? What do they follow in terms of faith? Do they have views about the moral currency of life itself? Well, over the next few weeks, we'll be meeting a group of young people who do think about faith and the impact that faith has on their lives. They're drawn from a variety of parishes around the county and come together in the church's youth councils. Their thoughts are broadly fed into the actions of the church and indeed ultimately into the council of bishops. So these youngsters' thoughts are clearly going to be important to the church. So then, to this week's thoughts on marriage with Becci, Sarah, Simon and Andrew, in no particular order.
I think it's like, I would love to have kids when I was older, and I think marriage is a very safe environment for the kids to grow up in, because I think it's a very stable and safe environment for them. If you go in with both eyes open, you won't need to get divorced.
So when you commit to the marriage vows, it's for life as far as you're concerned?
Unless the people are unhappy. I believe that everyone deserves happiness, and so that if they're unhappy, then they need to deal with it.
Yeah, because there's no point continuing with a relationship which is going to cause pain to either party. It's more important for people to be happy than to sort of be committed to something that they don't really want to be in that's causing them pain.
So you still want the get out of jail card in a sense? You want divorce there as an option still?
Yes, although I'd be particularly hesitant to use it because it's sort of a quick fix, whereas if you're getting married you should be pretty certain before you take the step and make the vows.
How long should an engagement be then, do you think, Andrew?
Well, I think it depends on the individual couple, but me personally, I think it maybe should be longer than maybe about, 4 months. Something that actually gets the couple to know each other. So as Simon was saying about you have to be pretty sure when you go into marriage that you know it's going to be the right choice. And I think the engagement period is a time when the couple get to know each other before they actually commit to their wedding vows.
Do you think it is actually different for boys in terms of what marriage means? Do you think you get something different out of it than girls do?
Difficult point. I don't think there's any major difference. It is a sort of emotional relationship, but possibly traditionally boys or men approach it in a different manner, if that makes sense.
I'm not that keen on the whole big wedding, personally, because I think it's a bit of a waste of time, which is maybe quite cynical, but never mind, because it just seems like a lot of a big hype for not much, really. I think the wedding is to do with the rest of your life, as opposed to just that day.
I think, the terminology actually means marriage actually means a long-term commitment. Wedding means actual day. It's actually two different meanings, but they often get confused.
Yeah, I think the sort of actually wedding day is more for the family relations and friends than for them to join within the union of the marriage. Yes, it's the start of that couple's married life, but in a way, one day is a small part of X years.
So what about children? Does marriage have to come first before the children?
I think it's probably better, simply from the sort of the fact that it's probably a more secure environment to be in, because if you're married then you've made the commitment. But sometimes, as there are a lot of couples in this world that are a lot more faithful, a lot more safe and secure environment, and they're not married than some that are. As you say, divorce is quite high, so that's not a particularly secure environment for kids if the parents are getting divorced. But I would prefer it over not being married, I think.
I think it's a difficult one because you have to use situation ethics to that, because you can't just say it's a blank point, because there's lots of different situations and different opinions, so you can't really just say one point. I think if you get married, then go for kids if that's what's right. Some married couples never have kids, and some will have them in the first year and some will have it 5 or 10 years later. So I think if you're going to have kids in a marriage, then it doesn't really matter when about in the marriage.
So you wouldn't suggest they have children sooner rather than later then?
Some kids will struggle if their parents are a lot older, but I know some kids who the parents are fairly old now, but it doesn't bother them at all. So I think it's about situation ethics. You can't just say one point and it be right for everything.
I think it's perfectly fine. You have to consider what the couple want in terms of that. Because, for example, if they're both professionals and a lot of their life is in their profession, it might not be right for them at all to come out of profession, because that could make it very difficult for them in their life if they've completely devoted their life to their profession. For example, politicians, it might be very hard to have children and be a politician at the same time.
I personally would be married first and then have children. I don't know, it's because of my upbringing, that's what I believe is right, but of course it does depend on the individual couple. Me personally, I would get married first and then have children. I think it would depend on whatever my future wife and I would decide on when we decide to have children. But yeah, again, each couple has their own preferences about if they put the career first or they want to start a family first. I think increasingly more people are becoming more, their career starts to dominate what they want to do personally at home.
Becci, Sarah, Simon and Andrew. More thoughts from the crew over the next few weeks on a variety of issues, including a bit of money and sexual relationships. A whole gamut is there. This is what's informing opinion within the church in the next few years, so it's important that we hear what they have to say.